Some quick facts about exceptional individuals. So we deliver community coaching training to neurodivergents. 80% of our team are neurodiverse, and we focus on the strengths-based approach. So this workshop, this mini workshop about dyspraxia and assertiveness is brought to you by us. I kind of want to give a quick reminder. I'm neurodiverse, so I'm ADHD, dyslexic, dyspraxic, and autistic, and I speak fast. I slur my words sometimes, but I do love structure, so there's going to be quite a structured approach to this. We're all obviously still learning about our own co-occurring neurodiversities, neurodivergent ways of thinking. So this is kind of just a safe space to also make note that we all have different lived experiences, and we all are here to help to be advocates for each other, because we know for a very long time, maybe some of us haven't actually had that for ourselves. So let's get into the crux of this dyspraxia and assertiveness. This practical mini workshop, you're going to be able to experience this, going to have a framework, and I'm going to get into what it is you're going to be learning. But again, another disclaimer for those of you that are very, very, very well versed in dyspraxia. There's going to be traits that you identify with, and there's going to be traits that you don't, and that's okay. There's no linear thing in this workshop. It's just literally a nice way for us to get to connect. So with that in mind, why is being dyspraxic and assertive challenging? This is my view of it, why it's been so hard for me as a person with dyspraxia to be assertive. It's about the empathy piece and how trusting we can be. We're literal thinkers. It means that if we have people that are not necessarily good for us, we can be quite vulnerable. The gaslighting, the bullying, the banter, all of those things can contribute to us not having that balance that we all kind of seek when it comes to getting our needs met. Another fear that kind of comes up around all this stuff is about being seen as aggressive. Fear of other person's anger or disapproval, fear that we will hurt other people's feelings, ambiguity and consistency when it comes to the actual how. I mean, who here resonates with any of this? If there's certain things here that I've just established that you can resonate with. I definitely felt that I was going to come across as aggressive if I was being assertive. The disapproval thing, because I was a people pleaser, those things really stopped me from being assertive. 1 and 2, yes, for autism, it's difficult to assert myself sometimes. April totally agrees. Sunjun says 1 and 2, 1 and 4, says Marie, Gavin. E says 2 and 3. All of them says Zach, 1 and 2. Sasha says all. Mohammed says 2. Kat says all. Yes, all. Nadia. Yep. So we can agree that it's challenging. And so today, let's focus on what you're going to learn. So I'm going to share with you the styles of communication that just don't work for a person with dyspraxia. I'm going to also share with you a 4-step, really simple, really friendly dyspraxia assertiveness framework. I'm also going to share some powerful habits that will help you to be more assertive. These habits will be things you implement on a daily basis if you so choose. And then I'm going to obviously talk about exceptional individuals and how awesome we all are and how we want to help you even more in your assertiveness journey. So what one thing do you want to get from this assertiveness workshop? I always ask these questions because I want you to get as much as possible. Well, one thing you absolutely want to own at the end of this hour about assertiveness: feeling better about myself. Fantastic. Yes, it's always a great aim. Clarity as to how to best utilize my dyspraxia to my advantage. Yes. Fear and passive aggressive. So maybe much more around how to reframe that. Knowledge. Fantastic. I want to learn how people with dyspraxia could be more assertive. Clarity, basic principles. Assertiveness without being aggressive. All situations, difficult ones. Okay, fantastic. To be working effectively as well. Colleagues to listen to my ideas, to help me look after myself and to ask what I need. Dealing with conflict better. Learning about my dyspraxic son. The one thing I want to get is raising awareness, also the workplace of assertiveness, finding a balance. Awesome. Can I thank you all for contributing and sharing those? You can see like self-advocacy skills, feeling confident. All of these are they're linked, right? And being able to like see this on screen is going to help other people immensely, because we are all in the same boat trying to navigate our world in this world. And so it's really important. So great. Love it. Thank you for sharing. hopefully, we'll be able to get some of this out of this workshop, but keep an eye on what it is you're focusing on this workshop so that you can measure it at the end to see if you actually got it. Okay. So what style of communication doesn't work for a person with dyspraxia? You probably can guess, but I'm just going to kind of give you some context. There's feelings of low self-esteem and self-worth issues when it comes to dyspraxia, and often we can deal with people in a passive way. We almost internalize our frustration, or we kind of blow up when it comes to other people. Like people that might not even, for lack of a better term, harmed us, we might end up harming somebody else or shouting at somebody else because we've pent up all this aggression. And so dealing with people in a passive way just doesn't work. And it ends up being like this loophole of reinforcing this vicious circle of passive response, self-reduced confidence, and it's just not helpful, right? So what works instead? Well, I guess it's about owning our feelings. It's owning our lived experiences, because oftentimes we feel like the world doesn't understand us. We can feel misunderstood. We might look strong, we might feel resilient, but it's quite easy and for us to have moments where we just need to be alone just to recuperate. And so what's a better way to do this? Obviously assertiveness, because assertiveness is about I'm okay, you're okay. Oftentimes when we're passive, it's I'm not okay, but you're okay. And when it's aggressive, it's I'm not okay, you're not okay. It's constantly like it's working against us. Passive aggressive is I'm not okay, you're not okay. And so we're just focusing for this session on I'm okay and you're okay, because we want to make sure that we're not in this space of feeling less than because of our needs being unmet. So I'm okay, you're okay. That's what assertiveness really is. And if it's not I'm okay, you're okay, then maybe you've fallen into these other boxes. Again, I did say at the beginning of this session, I speak extremely fast due to my neurodiversity. So I will try my best to make sure that you're with me. But this part is just a reminder about your rights. You have the right to express your feelings, opinions, and values. Just say, I have the right to express my feelings, opinions, values, and beliefs.
I have the right to express my feelings, opinions, values, and beliefs.
Yes. I have the right to say, I don't know, or I don't understand.
I have the right to say, I don't know, or I don't understand.
I have the right to say no without feeling bad or guilty.
I have the right to say no without feeling bad or guilty.
I have the right to personal freedom to be myself.
I have the right to personal freedom to be myself.
I have the right to privacy to be alone and independent.
Right to privacy to be alone and independent.
Awesome. And I have the right to be non-assertive, because this is your rights, right? And I have the right to make decisions, and I have the right to change my mind. We believe that other people, going back to that I'm okay, you're okay, that other people's rights are more important than ours. And so it's really important to remember about our own rights, our own individual rights. Now to go back to the element of assertiveness and dyspraxia, there are limitations to this work. And so I wanted to give you a tool before we even get into the framework that I've developed for assertiveness. I want to give you the technique called Foggy. And before that, I want to kind of share with you why. Just being assertive doesn't tell us much about how we should communicate. It tells us about how we can communicate, but it doesn't really tell us much about how we should with others. It almost ignores the fact that there's going to be a conversation with other people. And so we have to live in the reality that we want to feel much more empowered, but we also want to have the tools to be equipped to do this. So let's get past those limitations. The 4 different types of styles that help you to be much more assertive in a much more impactful way is to figure out which one you are and which one you're speaking to is as well. So which one of these are you? Are you analytical? Do you love just the data, the facts, the tasks? Are you personal? Do you love to just have conversations with people about the information? Are you quite functional? You want to deal with things step by step? Or are you intuitive? A big picture thinker. Now, there's going to be a tiny bit of you thinking, I'm all of them. But which one are you the most? Analytical, personal, functional, and intuitive. Fantastic. I've got 8 people so far. 9, 12 people have responded, and there's Analytical comes in first, then it's functional, intuitive, and personal. Great. And personal just crept up there on me. So we've got analytical, personal, functional, intuitive. So we've got a mixture in this room, right? Really important to identify. Oh, look at functional moving up now. We've got it's very important to identify who we are and how we like to best communicate, because it's going to be easy to explain to others and advocate for ourselves. Hey, this is how I like to have information given to me so that I can be the most effective. Once you know who you are and what you prefer, maybe it's going to be easy to identify how other people are as well. At least ask them the question, right? Mohammed says functional. Lauren is personal. Victoria says, I think I'm a mix depending on the situation, but probably functional. Zara says analytical. Audrey says analytical too. So let's check in. Analytical and analytical tie-in, and then personal, analytical, functional tie-in, and then personal and intuitive is next. So now we know we're a mixture of things. When it comes to some of the exercises, you're going to be able to articulate the way that you do this, the way that you actually ask and get your needs met based on that. Okay, I'm going to move along. So we're going to go moving on to frogging now. You might have heard this before, but it's a really useful technique. So I know that you identified the type of communicator you are, the person who likes to receive information. But this is for those of us that are normally with having conversations with people that are quite aggressive or can feel a bit manipulative. So rather than arguing back, which might kind of sound not necessarily conducive for some, we don't argue back. We give calm response. So frogging is all about having a way that you can calm a situation so that you can be calm and respond in a really practical way that helps you to move the conversation forward so that I'm okay and you're okay. So with that in mind, let me give you an example of what it is. Someone attacks you with you're useless at your job. Now, this is just an example, so nobody's necessarily going to say this to you, but just to give you an example, you could frog with, well, nobody's perfect, or well, probably not in that tone because that sounded a bit condescending, but you could be like, you're entitled to your opinion. If they're expecting an argument, a verbal fight, this is about kind of taking down their shields, right? Their defenses. You can say something like, yes, you're entitled to your opinion. Or something that's much more, another way to respond is, somebody says you're always late. Now, as a person with dyspraxia, kind of getting lost, it's not necessarily an issue now. People have often remarked that I'm late, especially with the ADHD element. And I say, yes, I'm sorry I'm late this time. And the important thing is here, I'm late this time, is about you actually acknowledging the present and not trying to go into previous times, which you have no way of measuring because it's in the past. And your brain's already trying to just focus on the present. So you acknowledge that you're late this time and you emphasize that I can see how that would be irritating. So again, it's about not giving that person all of that power and acknowledging what your part is, but also giving yourself some responsibility and not allowing yourself to be emotionally dysregulated by other person's actions. So yeah, so you can say, somebody says, you don't care about me or you don't care about this company. You can say, I can see why you think that based on my response, but that's not the whole story. Again, it's another way to minimize the aggression, passive aggression from the other person. So just another technique. There's so many techniques you could use, but just wanted to give you that because I totally get that sometimes when you are assertive, you are speaking to another human being and they are not always reasonable. And so you need to make sure that you are being as reasonable as possible. I would normally ignore an insult. Yeah, exactly. Ignore the bit that just isn't relevant and focus on what's important. Okay. So the main thing in frogging is to remain detached. You don't allow yourself to get annoyed by the person and all subjective elements of the criticism. You can ignore them. You can acknowledge just parts of the statement that you agree with. You don't commit to doing something purely because the other person thinks that you should. And you don't deny or consent the criticism that you receive from the other person. You don't respond with criticism of the other person either, because it's not helpful, and you don't get defensive. Now, it all sounds really easy. And again, assertiveness is a practice. These skills are a practice. So this is about practicing as often as possible. And so you're going to be doing that today. I'm just got another note about assertiveness, just to bring it home. To be passive is to let others decide for you. To be aggressive is to decide for others. To be assertive is to decide for yourself. And to trust that there is enough, that you are enough. And for me, that sounds pretty awesome. To be able to decide for yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how assertive do you feel? We've got 2, we've got 6, we've got 9, we've got 7. We got 5. We got a 9. Awesome, awesome. We have numbers here. What numbers have we got? We've got 5. We've got a 9, a 1, 8. Victoria says, find it hard to deal with criticism and confrontation. I totally understand that. Rejection sensitivity might be at play here, and it's a real thing. Sometimes when you give us criticism, it definitely hurts. Yes, totally agree with that. Definitely if it's delivered in a certain way. So that's what your numbers are, right? How assertive do you feel? These are your numbers that are coming up for you. Some of you are at 9, some of you are at 2. That's okay. Again, this is not about comparison. This is just about identifying where we are. How spiky is this room when it comes to being assertiveness based on specific scenarios? So you're going to choose a scenario and you're going to say how assertive you are based on certain contexts. Because it's oftentimes we're like saying, oh, I'm assertive, like, depending on the context. And I totally agree. But how assertive are you when it comes to specific scenarios? Because we can be really assertive in one area, but not assertive in another. So how assertive are you when it comes to specific context? Okay, so again, we split it down. We've got a 2.4 when it comes to setting boundaries with loved ones. 2.5's gone up. Being interviewed for a job about 3. Asking for help from a colleague about 2. Facilitating presentations about 2. Dealing with conflict at work is about a 1. So from here, we can kind of identify it in the group setting, which one would be really helpful for you all in terms of dealing with conflict at work. We're all different and it's okay. So based on that, knowing that we are all spiky, we're good at certain elements, we struggle with others, we might be good at communication in one area, but have challenges with others. If you think of a specific scenario now, a specific scenario where you're at your most assertive would be easy, right? Because you're already there, but we're here to learn how to be more assertive in a different way. So think of a other scenario where you need help in that area. And then let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how assertive you are with that specific scenario. Have it in your mind's eye what the scenario is. It could be like, it could go back to working with people and conflict. It could be asking for what you need from other people. So Victoria says, I do really well in interviews, but terrible at managing conflict and have difficult conversations. I just avoid it all. See, fantastic. So really well in certain areas again, but other areas have a challenge, and that's okay. Fantastic. So we've got a mixture again. We've got people that are assertive in their areas, whatever you ask, and then we've got people that are 3s, 4s, 7s, 8s, and 6, and that's okay. So we know you're assertive in certain areas. We know it's a skill, and so that you are actually implementing this, because there's no transformation from information without implementation. So that we know that you can take the information and implement it and embed it into your long-term memory. What scenario could you implement these learnings, the ones that I'm going to teach you more of, not just frogging, but other areas, other things, what and where, maybe, what scenario will you be using this in? So it could be workplace conflict. It could literally be having a conversation with my doctor. It could be anything. So I just want you to name that scenario, name it, because that's where the area is that you want more improvement in. If you're already at a 10, that's great, but we need the areas where you're not a 10. So just like, how are you going to take this learning? How are you going to put it into your everyday practice? What would that look like? Great, great, great. Fantastic, fantastic. Sometimes it can be hard what to say and hard to learn things in school. Viola, you're welcome. Okay, so we've got some scenarios here, and we're going to take this information in the next 24 hours and use it. So some of them are knowing what to say if you feel stuck on things, asking for help, having a meeting to discuss work conflict using frogging technique, fantastic. Conversations with colleagues, planning projects for good results, asking for help in order to be the best, medical sessions, supporting the son, workplace with very senior people, workplace conflict, my boyfriend, managing expectations without letting it affect me on a personal level. All of these are fantastic. And thank you for the 13 people that have responded, meeting my new manager, expressing what I think. When you talk to my friends and family, when somebody's not being entirely truthful. Okay, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Time to move forward. Another question which you might have to think of by yourself, because we're running out on shortened time, is how will you measure your success? How will you measure that what you're doing is actually going to be more effective, that you're not necessarily feeling disappointed? What is a measurement of success for you? Is it the fact that you just do it? Or is it the fact that, you're going to make it a habit? How you measure success when it comes to being assertive. Some of it is feedback, getting that encouragement in life and in employment. SMART goals. Fantastic. SMART goals, for those that might not know, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. Realistic goals and progression. When you feel comfortable with the outcome, both happy, writing a list of tasks you need to do, feedback tools, remaining calm inside. So the person that's put no idea, that's fine. Some of these might be really good ways to measure your success as well. And sometimes it's maybe looking at the success of the outcome. And sometimes it's about being more confident in your beliefs and knowing how to use self-care. Fantastic, fantastic. Setting achievable goals. For those that feel like you're on your own, fantastic. I love that. Awesome. So thank you. Reflecting on feedback is one of them as well. So again, just to remind you, I'm okay, you're okay. Assertiveness. This is what we're focusing on here. I'm okay, you're okay. And we're going to move away from I'm not okay. We're moving away from you're not okay. We are moving towards you okay and I'm okay. Okay, so many okays. So this is what we've learned so far. You're already assertive. You want to be more assertive in different areas of your life. You know the styles of communication that just don't work for a person with dyspraxia, as in the passive element. You also know how to measure how you're improving in the area of assertiveness because you've already written down, this is how I'm going to measure. This is the things I'm going to do. So this is just a real quick summary because I wanted to make sure that we're not just going off tangent and we are taking in things. Might be at a fast pace, but it's still a pace nevertheless. So with that in mind, which one of these are an assertive request? I'm going to read them out. After you get your pedicure or do whatever it is you do all day while I'm at work, would you mind picking up my dry cleaning for me? Or will you pick up my dry cleaning for me on your way home tonight? Which of these are an assertive request? We got 11 people who think that it's will you pick up my dry cleaning for me on your way home tonight? 14 people. We got one person that says after you get your pedicure, whatever it is you do all day while I'm at work, would you mind picking up my dry cleaning for me? So the right answer is, will you pick up my dry cleaner for me on your way home tonight? That is the right answer, or the most assertive answer. It's an assertive request. The other one, it can come across as passive aggressive purely because of the element of the after you get your pedicure or do whatever it is you do all day. It's almost like there's a resentfulness there. Fantastic. Green one's directed. It's clear. You don't need to make it passive aggressive, which is yellow. Fantastic. So now you're going to create your own request. So what is it that you want somebody else to do? Knowing what a passive request is, a passive aggressive request is, and knowing what a request is that is not passive aggressive, based on, I think I've got it somewhere here actually. How do you make a request? Which one? Before I even get you to brainstorm some ideas of how you can make a request, how do you make a request? Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it coherent? Which one? It's all of them. Trick question, yeah, I know. All of them. As long as your request is clear, it's concise, it's coherent, that's a assertive request. It's a request that can be seen clearly. There is no passive aggressiveness to it or disaggressiveness to it. Clear, concise, and coherent. If you can take anything away from today, remember the 3 C's: clear, concise, coherent. So this question here, all I need you to do is like say what request you want. Like for me, it could be something like, would you please write your notes on an email for me? Or would you please bullet point what you need me to do as a task by email. So it's a request that you want to make, something that's an unmet need that you want to make to somebody in the next 24 hours. I need your help with. So what is that you need help with? Can you send me a reading from the electricity meter? That's a request. It's a great, clear, coherent, concise request. We want to know how it makes you feel when this problem arises in your life. So you've all got your requests, the thing that you chose to focus on. What does it make you feel like when this situation comes up for you? For example, I can give you an example. If somebody doesn't respond to a message I sent them maybe a week ago, I feel frustrated. So let's look at the words, the emotions that come up for you. What do you feel when this problem arises? Anxious and scared. You want to fix things at all costs. Okay, so you go into like fixing mode. You get anxious and defensive, right? Anything else? What other emotions come up for you? How does this make you feel when you don't feel seen or heard? Annoyed, anxious, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Nervous and anxious. Yes, I can be impatient if nobody sends me a meter reading within 4 days. Frustrated and easily irritated. Yes, and yes, and yes. But they're really busy and need a reminder. Okay, so when it arises, there's sometimes a frustration, right? We just need to own that. It's not respected, anxious, on edge. Okay, completely normal to have those feelings, completely. So this is what we need to identify. We need to identify what our needs are, the first part, but also how we feel when we don't necessarily have our needs met. Feel anxious and defensive. Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you. It's an impact. It impacts you, and normally this might be subjective. This is my experience again. When you have dyspraxia, you can internalize some of these things. You might not necessarily always articulate what you need. So we're going to do sentences that say, I feel. Instead of saying the person is, you make me, we're going to say, I feel. So the first part was, your request, what you need from them. When this happens, I feel anxious. I feel abandoned. I feel helpless. We're articulating to the person, this is how you feel when this happens. It doesn't mean your opinions, your emotions are valid. So when anyone says that your emotions aren't valid in this, that's when they're kind of gaslighting you. Your emotions, the way you feel, are valid, and it's always great to articulate them. I feel. What do you feel? But you're going to put it together. Unempowered, emotional. Okay, great. There's a method to my madness, guys. It's going to work. Feel ignored, disrespected, and undervalued. Okay, great. Fantastic. Now, put those words on a piece of paper. You feel like anything like me, my short-term memory is not always the best. Put on a piece of paper the beginning part, the first part, and the second part. Feel hurt, disrespected, and like not listening to me. Okay, great. The reminder, I'm okay, you're okay framework. Just a reminder. Assertiveness is about getting back on track. It's all about kind of our values and our beliefs. And normally when we don't feel like our values and beliefs are being heard or we're living in alignment, we can oftentimes feel very frustrated, disappointed. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to do this work. And so it's called the P.A.S.T framework, because you basically want to make sure you're focusing on the future, or not even the future, the present, by looking at the past and seeing how you can change certain elements. It stands for these 4 things. The problem. This is when you started to talk about I think, or you start to do your request. You then talk about how it affects you. You talk about the feel, how it made you feel. The solution is what you want. At the end of the day, there's something that you need as well. And then the payoff is sort of what the other person gets from it. Because remember, it's I'm okay, you're okay. This obviously helps with self-care. This obviously helps with the commitment to yourself. When we don't commit to ourselves, when we don't honor what we want, we often find ourselves not trusting ourselves, not following our intuition, or all those other things. And so the P.A.S.T framework is all about what you think, what you feel, what you want, and the payoff for the self-care and commitment that you need in order to be in alignment with what it is that's helpful for you. So if this makes sense to you, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Fantastic. Thank you, Lauren. I didn't mention at the beginning, earlier up, that I am autistic, dyslexic, and ADHD, but I know that some of you might have not caught that. So I did give you heads up that I might be fast. So we do obviously workplace needs assessments. We help you to secure a job by applying for grants, giving you training. We also help you through support by giving you that support for your employees as well, if you are an employer. And all we need right now is for you to go to our website, share your takeaways on social media about this event, good things, good parts, and obviously like our social media channels so they can keep informed about all our other sessions too. If you have any questions, then send them to me and I will try to answer them by email. Just to give you a recap of what you've learned and what I'm going to be sending: 7 styles of communication that don't work, the 4-step dyspraxic friendly technique, the habits to continue implementing that will help you be more assertive that you'll get by email at the end of this session, and a way that you can still work with exceptional individuals. If you got any other reflections, you could put them here. And now I'm out of breath. Wish the session was a bit longer. Thank you for the feedback. We'll try next time. Good to work practically on real life problems to find solutions. Fantastic. Great session. Learned so much. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Pushed me to get an ADHD assessment. Awesome. Learned a lot. Wish a bit longer. Yeah, I know. Next time I will make sure that I maybe do an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I'm just conscious of time. Very interesting. 90 minutes next time. Yeah, I agree. I was conscious of time. Thank you so much for joining me. It's my first one doing this with you guys, so I appreciate you being patient with me as well.